Learning is often tough. Many immigrants in Germany struggle to learn the language at first. All these people are ethnic Germans. Their forefathers emigrated from Germany to Russia, and they've only ever known Russian. Now they have to learn German in their first temporary home in Germany, the Friedland transit camp.
Friedland
is a new path to a new life.
Das neues Leben, für das neue Leben.
Friedland has offered a new beginning for many over the years. At first glance, it appears to be nothing more than a collection of barracks in the countryside. But the camp has a unique place in German history. 1945 marked the end of the Second World War and the beginning of a huge refugee movement in Germany. Residents fled from Soviet troops moving in from the east. Their flight ended in this inconspicuous place on the border between the British, American and Soviet-occupied zones.
They knew there was a fixed destination here, where they had the chance of a future. They put the past behind them as they crossed the border. That was important for them, and somehow it worked too.
Wolfgang Zuse was just 8 years old when he came to Friedland with his family. They only spent a few days here. After that, they had to find shelter with a family in one of the surrounding villages.
As refugees, we weren't welcome here, of course. People here hadn't lost anything. The farmers had just as much as they had before the war. We had nothing but a suitcase, so there were tensions. We came needing help. They didn't want to give it, but had no choice. So the houses were full.
At the beginning, Friedland was just an improvised camp where people were registered and supplied with the mere basics. At first, the refugees were housed in an old stable. Later, simple Nissen huts were built, made with curved sheets of corrugated iron. One still stands in the camp today. Back then, the huts were overrun with lice and hardly pleasant. For the German post-war generation, Friedland above all conjures up memories of 1955, when West German Chancellor Konrad Adenauer succeeded in getting the last German prisoners of war repatriated from the Soviet Union. They arrived here in Friedland.
Rest assured that we will do all in our power to facilitate your reintegration into the very new conditions that you will find here. Welcome back to the German fatherland.
At times, Friedland has dealt with as many as 400,000 people a year, refugees, soldiers returning from war or resettlers. Particularly in the early 1990s, after the breakup of the Soviet Union, Friedland was bursting at the seams. Most recently, it was Iraqi Christians who came here. In all, Friedland has provided a first port in Germany for over 4 million people. These days, very few ethnic Germans are moving from the east. Just over 2,000 have arrived in Friedland so far this year. So in future, the camp will be used to house asylum seekers.
In the beginning, Friedland was designed to take lots of people for just a short stay. But then it changed. Now it's not so much an initial landing stage, but more for longer stays, up to 6 months. With the option of taking part in integration courses to better prepare for a new life in Germany.
Besser auf das neue Leben in Deutschland vorbereitet zu werden.
Svetlana Starikova is one of the teachers on the course. She only came to Germany herself a few years ago. Arriving from Kazakhstan, she started off in Friedland. She says adapting to the new culture and language is the biggest challenge facing the new arrivals. Children find the experience especially unsettling, and so Svetlana seeks to help them, especially during their 6 months at the camp.
They don't lose their identity here. They find a second one. And they begin to realize that speaking more than one language and understanding 2 or more cultures actually enriches their lives.
A statue entitled Homecomers welcomes the new arrivals, along with a so-called Bell of Freedom. For decades, Friedland has stood for the beginning of a new beginning and a new life in Germany, a role it looks set to retain for many more years to come.